Hey, welcome back. It's good to see everybody. It's been a few weeks since last time we got together. Hope all is well. Last time we got a chance to talk about that wonderful lesson. And so could you remind us again, what was your focus question? What were you working on? What did we kind of come up with?
Okay, so just to review, the focus for what I wanted from feedback was to help me get the kids to produce writing that was a bit more rigorous and that was more self-referent so that they would be more engaged.
And so tell us, how did that lesson go? Were you able to implement the feedback we talked about? I know we talked about the raft activity and a bunch of other things, so talk us through it.
Sure. What I really took, I took several things from our last talk, but the biggest thing was using the raft. So I left it open for kids to be able to ask for other types of product if they wanted to, but it felt good to have that structure in place in case they needed that kind of support for what do I write? And it's not a super formal piece of writing, which is what I wanted. I wanted something informal, and I thought it really worked well. So I saw some kids talking to each other about their own experiences on the broad topic of immigration, but I also saw some kids connecting to news stories, and they really incorporated that into who they picked for the role or the audience for their raft, for example.
Well, without further ado, this is the Looking at Student Work protocol. So can you present to us the student work, tell us what we're about to see, and remind us again what your goals and expectations were for the assignment.
So we did have a rubric for this as you're looking at the student samples. So what I wanted to get from them, regardless of what they chose as the product, if it was a raft or what have you, I really wanted them to have a specific claim. So it can't just be broad like immigration. It had to be something specific of their choosing related to that topic. And then they had to have 3 pieces of evidence. I wanted 3 from the 10 different resources that we had in this project. So we had readings, 10 different readings. They were supposed to pull 3 things. And then, for a perfect grade as far as that. And then they had to have some commentary as well. They had to have some sort of commentary on, their theme using the evidence. The point was to get them to engage so they'll remember the history. Okay, so these are low, medium, and high. That's the order they're in, and they're all rafts because most of the kids did use that option since it had more structure and stuff. So, and then just keep in mind the rubric that we discussed. So they should have for a perfect score. They got to have some commentary and connection, but they got to use 3 pieces of evidence from the readings, and they should have a specific claim. It can't just be general immigration.
All right, everybody, so we're going to take a look at the bread and butter here and examine the student work, take a few minutes to look at it, and we're going to talk about strengths and needs in a little bit. All right, so now we get a chance to share, based on what we've looked at, what are the biggest strengths that you have observed. We're going to go round robin style so everyone gets a chance to share one of the strengths that we've seen from this lesson. And we're going to talk about how it achieved the goals and expectations that Ms. Stober set forth.
Something I noticed across all 3 levels of the student work that you provided, there are clear attempts at using evidence. So something that you were looking for was connecting a claim backed with evidence from text that you've read before. So that's a strength I find in the lesson.
I can see looking through it, even in the low paper, you can see lots of commentary and lots of attempts to express the story that they're trying to help us. So you can see the students are definitely making that commentary connection that you were looking for. They're definitely engaging with the material like you wanted them to.
All right, so now that we've taken time to identify those strengths in the student work, let's look at what the trends are, what the needs are based on what your focus question was. So I know we talked a lot about engagement using writing, and then this particular exercise is measuring students' ability to take evidence, support a claim, and then provide some kind of commentary to connect everything together. So as we look at the student work, what do you all see as being trends for needs in the student work?
So it seems like a couple of the students are struggling establishing a clear theme. So maybe they need a little bit of support with establishing that, coming up with that, and then making sure they're writing to that theme.
In addition to that, I noticed that they're taking some evidence from the text, but they're not necessarily connecting that back to whatever their thesis is, so it doesn't actually support the thesis that they're trying to make. So we've talked about strengths, we've talked about needs and trends, and now let's talk about what can we do about it. What instructional strategies might we suggest that help students get to that desired goal that we identified? So what do we have for potential strategies?
Well, I wanted to ask for help with helping kids to create their theme. And also because I had like each level, they were like missing a little bit of something. So what can I do to help them, kind of like tick the boxes to make sure they hit the rubric better? Some sort of intermediate thing.
Actually, something I've used in my classroom is feedback from peers. So I guess in other contents it would be called a peer review. But hearing pieces from other students sometimes allows them to understand better. It's just another source. And they get someone else that is looking at their work, and they get to look at someone else's work as well.
And since you're already using that rubric, then you could equip the peers with that rubric and they could actually grade it as if they were the teacher. All right, so as we were sharing the strengths and the opportunities, the needs, you did such a good job of just listening and taking it all in. So here's your chance to tell us what you've been thinking about, Ms. Dover. To what extent has your instruction been impacted by our conversation last time during the tuning protocol, and now as we're looking at student work? And then where are you going from here? Like, what's next?
So I think that the feedback I got during the lesson tuning part helped me to, find that missing piece of the informal writing with the raft. I think like if I was, evaluating how it went in this lesson, me using that the first time, I think, it wasn't requires action. It wasn't, it was more progressing. So I think if I beef it up a little bit with some of the other strategies you guys have suggested, like peer review and maybe like a graphic organizer or some kind of way to like talk about like the creation of the theme, then that'll kind of help me take it to the next level. Because I know that these kids are some of them are used to using rafts in their English classes, but maybe just like they need more support in using it in their social studies class.
And then lastly, how does this all connect to our instructional priorities?
Okay, well, I would say that my priority was more on like the rigor and the writing going into it. But I think the raft also gave them opportunity to engage with it more since they got to choose the role in the audience in some of these things. But I would say that if I start using more the graphic organizer on the thesis and the peer review, then it will seem more like SMART is something you can get.
You've given them the framework to be successful and build that.
Yeah.
Awesome.